Shakalaka.
Dude, these chips are still pretty good. Not even gonna lie.
Yeah, I'm just gonna put them in the same bag.
Welcome back, everybody, to... And have fun with the ASMR on this one, folks.
No, continue.
All right,
You're either going to gain a lot of people or lose all of them.
Pretty much.
There's no one.
Yeah, you're not wrong. All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Tall and Short with Tim and Tony. I'm Tim, and he's Tony.
Allegedly.
A few things to cover up before we... Cover up? Oh, wrong word. A few things to go over. There we go. We don't cover up, we go over.
Epstein didn't kill himself?
Whew. Okay, well done, Tony. So, gonna go over a few things before we get into the meat of the episode, which my wording is not being very bad here. I'm gonna anyway. In order for our recording schedules to go a little bit better, we're now going to be releasing the episodes bi-weekly. So every other week, we're gonna be a 2-week podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Just for the sake of, we have to be able to schedule ourselves to record, which has proven to be just a little difficult with our personal lives and, our jobs and stuff.
Definitely our scheduling with our jobs.
So, there's that problem. Also, otters are terrible. I finally watched Casual Geographic, and I was
welcome.
I was like, oh my god, otters are cute and everything, but they got a good PR team. That's why.
Like dolphins.
Fuck
dolphins, fuck otters.
Final thing is, I terrify your son.
Oh, yeah.
I have not gotten to say that yet. I terrify your son. So, Tony and I, this was before we got our new recording studio. You did that to yourself.
There's a lot of smell going in one.
He just shook his bag of chips, and there was a lot of smell that came out. We went over to Tony's and everything, and we were going to try to record the emu episode.
Yeah, did an attempted recording,
but there were a few factors like the AC units outside going off, and there was a lot that we just couldn't do. A lot of audio texture that would have really.
And a 16-month-old that wanted to touch all the things that were not supposed to be touched.
Yeah, a lot of expensive equipment, and so then Tony was doing this funny face thing that he does with his kid.
And then Tim
I tried to do it, be like, I have never seen your kid had such a visceral, blood-curdling scream. He was red in the face. I had to walk out of the room just so that way he could
calm down.
Come
off the edge.
And I felt like Captain Hook. It's like, "Seize me, no children love me." I felt like that. I really do.
It's probably a good thing you don't have kids.
Yeah, no, I very much would terrify the kids. Not intentionally, mind you, but
I mean, to be fair, he hates that Captain Marvel cat, the goose cat.
He does.
Terrified. Worse than you.
Wow.
Because that blue that comes out of the mouth.
The tentacles.
Yeah, terrified. He doesn't. I have it sitting on top of a bunch of books. He doesn't go near those books.
God. So I traumatized your son. Not intentionally. But
it's kind of funny though.
It was funny. I was laughing. I was like, "Oh man." So I think he'll warm up to me after a minute or two. After maybe a year.
After he needs a alibi.
Yeah. He'll be good to go. But man, I'm still recovering. Speaking of recovering, I'm still recovering from your episode about giant sharks and scary deep water bullshit, because, fuck you. Again,
I know. Here comes the price to pay.
Again, I'm proud of you, though, for doing that. I'm not mad about it. I'm just, I am proud. I'm like, you did it. Well done. But you know what that means?
Yeah.
It's episode 30, and we have ourselves another serial killer, everybody.
I'm gonna eat myself out a window.
And this story has everything from murder to rapes and Hell's Angels. Today's killer is Robert William Pickton.
Oh, I know him.
Also known as the Pig Farmer Killer and the Butcher.
Yep.
You know this guy.
Yep.
Awesome.
The name immediately rang a bell.
Yep. I've got the main sources for this one are the book On the Farm, Robert William Pickton and the Tragic Story of Vancouver's Missing Women, as well as a couple of Canadian news articles and Robert Pickton's Wikipedia page. I use that mostly as, like, again, to use a Wikipedia page. Huh?
A guideline.
And a good outline, a basic outline, because then the book itself actually has a lot more in-depth details. So first and foremost, Robert William Pickton, Bobby Willie Pickton, if we want to go that route, or even Picky Pickton, as I might start calling him, was born on October 24th, 1949, to Leonard Francis Pickton and Louise Helen Arnall, née Arnall Pickton. He was born into a family of pig farmers in Port Coquitlam, British Columbia. So we're in Canada, Tony.
Home of Ryan Reynolds.
Papa Pickton was 16 years older than his wife.
God.
Mostly due to him being seen as a confirmed bachelor. And there's a whole reason why. He was also in a family of pig farmers. The Picktons, for like generations, had been pig farmers.
I mean, the name sounds like it.
Uh-huh. Papa Pickton was 53 years old, while Mama Pickton was 37 years old when Robert Pickton was born.
Okay.
They were incredibly filthy, and they didn't care too much about their hygiene and personal appearances.
So the pigs were cleaner than them.
The pigs were very much cleaner than them. In fact, neither of them had much of their teeth, if any, left.
Adorable.
Already off to a fun start. Papa Pickton was described as lazy and unambitious, narrow-faced with a long pointed nose, rat-faced, as they would say.
Uh-huh.
He was usually dressed in grubby t-shirts, dirty blue jeans, black rubber boots, and a beat-up hat. So, kind of sort of standard farm wear.
Yeah, for the most part.
Hillbilly-ish also, though.
Yeah, more Appalach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mama Pickton had... Oh, God, her description... I'm like, is this real? It's real. She was no better looking. Shocker. She had lost most of her hair, and she wore a bandana over what little wisps she had left on her head. So that's already terrifying to think about. She developed a little goatee from all the hairs on her chin. She was also described as short and stout, wearing house dresses over jeans and black rubber boots. She was never seen wearing anything other than... It was never seen other than wearing those. In fact, they say that she would waddle like a duck while she wore the boots.
I mean, yeah. Yeah.
And apparently, her voice was also a persistent high screech.
Ooh.
You can imagine that,
Talking about nails on a chalkboard, Jesus.
Oh yeah, it's bad. Obviously, these two are parents of the year right away. I mean, Papa Pickton was very abusive because he was much older, and Mama Pickton was very demanding. We're going to get into a lot of this here. Robert William Pickton also had two siblings. He had an older sister named Linda Louise, and then a younger brother named David Francis Pickton. Linda Louise was a year older, 1 or 2 years older, and then David was right after, year after. So
okay.
They had 3 kids, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Which Linda would actually be sent to live with relatives in Vancouver proper because the Pickton parents didn't think a pig farm was good for the young girl to be at.
So did Papa Pickton ever kick a child?
No.
In Vancouver?
Not that I'm aware of. Again, he was lazy and unambitious.
Okay,
so
he definitely wasn't a Vancouver child kicker.
No, he was not. No. But, I mean...
plug that one.
I mean, I actually looked up where Port Coquitlam was in relation to Vancouver. It's legitimately in Vancouver proper. I'm gonna find you a map. Okay, found it. Thank you, Wikipedia. Gonna send it to you.
Okay.
Which again, it just looks so weird to me. The red one is Port Coquitlam, which is surrounded by Coquitlam, not to be confused. And then Vancouver proper is 17 miles to the west.
Yeah, North Vancouver City.
Yep, that's Vancouver. That's Vancouver City. Like, all of that right there. Like, Vancouver is actually that's the Vancouver metro area, essentially. Like how we have the Oklahoma City metro.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that situation.
And then you have, like, Midwest City more,
Yeah. So that's what that's about. So that's kind of how that's all set up. So.
That's not America. I don't recognize that.
Robert was born with his umbilical cord wrapped around his neck.
Great start.
Yeah, it's a shame that it didn't keep him from continuing, right?
Yeah.
But funny thing is, weirdly enough, his memory was not affected at all. Like, somehow, some way, he had a very good memory. Which is weird.
That sounds like that's gonna not go well.
Pickton says that he remembers, being 2 years old. This is his earliest memory. 2 years old. He lived in a chicken coop, and he had to pry up a loose floorboard to get cold water from a spring that ran below the coop. It'd be the only running water on the property for years.
That was a bizarre first memory.
It's also disgusting, because it's like, you're under a chicken coop. All that chicken shit and everything getting in the water.
Chickens are the nastiest birds.
Chickens and ducks are pretty gross, man. Like, ducks are disgusting.
Ducks aren't nearly as bad as chickens.
Chickens are still gross, though.
Yeah.
They're tasty, but gross.
Yeah, but you don't want to watch.
Another story was when he was 3 years old, and he crashed his dad's truck into a tree. The truck was loaded up with pigs, and his dad was yelling at him to stop the truck while the pigs jumped out of the runaway truck. And he's just screaming. And apparently, he told to a pen pal, because what Robert Pickton would do is he couldn't write very well. He could write slow, but he would get pen pals, and he would send audio letters to people. This is in, of course, like the 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
And he would send audio letters to pen pals. And he talked about this story and says, and he said stuff like, he was screaming about the shop and the car and everything, and the truck, and he pulled me out, whooped me, but that's what happens. Like, he just was just matter-of-factly.
Nonchalant, yeah.
Nonchalant, like, what happens. Robert and David, the Pickton brothers, they would work on the farm from a young age, which that's not a surprise.
As you do.
That's when you have kids and you own a farm. Once they're old enough to cry,
indentured labor.
Pretty much.
Yeah, can confirm.
The pig farm was initially located at 2426 Cape Horn in Port Coquitlam. They will later move down the timeline. And this property was in an area called Dawes Hill. So
that sounds off-putting already.
Mm-hmm.
Because all I'm thinking is the killer granny from your
I know,
first
Nanny
episode.
Dawes.
Yeah.
Funny enough, compared to the Pickton farm, the rest of the Dawes Hill area would actually be developed for the families of doctors and medical staff for the Essendale Hospital, which was a mental institution.
Great.
So there's a lot of build-up on this one, man.
Yeah, it's...
I think my cat's trying to get in.
Your cats are trying to interrupt you about it. Father! I crave violence.
The brothers also had speech impediments, which made them get picked on by the doctor's kids, which, no surprise, kids are vicious. David would talk fast, and he couldn't pronounce his R's very well, so he sounded like a very rampant Elmer Fudd.
You want to say that again? Very what?
Rampant. You mean a rampant Elmer Fudd?
I'm making fun, but...
I'll make fun of it.
Prodding a little bit.
I'm making fun of David. He is no.
Yeah, he can handle it.
Oh no, he's no better than his brother. His brother might have been a killer, but David's pretty fucking messed up too.
Oh great.
Oh yeah, no. Robert was more withdrawn, but when he got to talking, he would gabble in a high-pitched voice. So yeah.
Ugh.
I mentioned their mother was very demanding earlier. Prioritizing the pigs over her own children, she would force her own kids to ignore their personal hygiene and have them work long, arduous hours.
Alright.
One detail in particular that I found interesting was that Robert Pickton actually had a fear of showers and didn't like water getting on his face. So, weird, I know. I'm giving you a second.
Not being a big fan of water, but...
Part much.
What were the noises that just came out of your face?
I think something went down the wrong pipe. Any animals that they did raise, be it chickens, ducks, cows, pigs, whatever, would be allowed to freely roam in and out of the farmhouse. I can already imagine the smell.
Like the house they lived in, or...
The house they lived in.
Oh.
Not just the farmland, the farmhouse itself.
Mm.
It's clear that Louise probably didn't have a sense of smell.
You wouldn't want one after
that
crap smells awful.
Hell, even further, the Pickton boys, they would probably maybe get a bath once a week if they were lucky. So, we're talking filthy, filthy, filthy here, man.
Yeah.
In fact,
Gross.
they were so filthy they would legitimately go to school in their filthy clothes, reeking of manure, piss, blood, spit, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they would be given the nickname Stinky Piggy from classmates.
How original.
I know. Kids are vicious, though, man. Like, it's not...
It's the quantity over the quality.
Yeah, I know. No surprise, but... This is no surprise here. Robert Pickton was not very good in school. He would be put in a special class because of this. So, special education. Funny and interesting one, though, he was not, looking into it, he wasn't stupid.
No.
But he wasn't a genius. He was fairly average intelligence, and he could read and write pretty good. Just not, really well.
Yeah, he wasn't speed reading, but he could read.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't mentally challenged by any means, but he just
was a slow learner.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because a lot of the times you have serial killers are either stupidly intelligent and too smart for their own good, or they're just a complete country bumpkin.
Yeah.
This instance, middle of the line. Around age 12, Piggy Pickton had started to raise a cow as a pet. He had bought the cow, was a black and white cow that he was head over heels for. He bought it himself for $35, his life savings.
Jesus.
Let's see.
50s, 60s.
He's 12, so 1940, yeah, early 60s.
Okay.
2 weeks later, after he came home, he couldn't find the cow.
Oh, no.
So, you know where this is going.
Oh, yeah.
So, he was told by either his mom or his dad to go check the barn. And the cow was found slaughtered. Totally not traumatizing at all for the little kid. He immediately shut down and he became very withdrawn from people after that. I mean, he became a lot more withdrawn and more, mechanical, so to speak.
Yeah.
When he got older. But,
going through the motions.
Yeah, which... That sucks. And his mom even said, you can go buy another one. He's like, but that was mine. I wanted that cow.
Yeah, he had spent his life savings on that was his cow.
Yeah. But what can I... His mom, man, I can't with her. I really can't. In 1963, the Pickton family moved from the Dawes Hill property to 953 Dominion Avenue. How they did this, they literally lifted the farmhouse up off of its foundation and took it all the way to the new property, as well as a barn. Gotta have the barn.
I mean, not really.
It was one of those big Dutch style looking.
Yeah.
That's a barn.
The classical Google barn, and it comes up with that.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
The family paid $18,000 for 40 acres of land. This was 1963 money.
That's pretty pricey.
Yeah, but it's also man, that's nice.
Yeah.
The property was described as being well-treed and green, but it was also below the water table, which meant there was a lot of swampy land on the property in certain areas. Brackish water.
Mm-hmm.
The Picktons intended to enlarge their pig and poultry business here, raising and slaughtering the animals themselves, which back in the 50s, 60s, was a lot more common than it is now.
Yeah.
The Picktons would also later buy a small wooden building at 2215 Coquitlam Avenue, where they would put several, I think it was 100, frozen food lockers where farmers and customers could store their meat.
Nice.
Smart
move.
The locals would call this the meat locker. The Picktons were not. The Picktons might have been stinky and very.
Sounds like, I mean, if they were able to buy new land just off their business, they're not stupid.
Louise was very much more the driving force behind this.
Oh, yeah.
She was very intelligent.
Yeah.
And some of it rubbed off on David and Robert. Leonard Pickton, the daddy, Papa Pickton.
Yeah.
He is out of this for the most part. Like, he was abusive for a hot minute, but then eventually, as he got older, he just became more senile and was just being steamrolled over by his wife.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, good for him or good for her. I don't know. These people are cartoonish.
Yeah. I mean,
much like the old property, the Dominion Avenue property quickly got dirty with nearly 700 pigs and chickens running around.
Jesus.
In and out of the farmhouse. So, not pretty, obviously.
No.
By this time, Robert had dropped out of school to be a meat cutter's apprentice, albeit begrudgingly. The reason why he dropped out is because he told this to one of his pen pals because of a rude pen. He bought a pen at like one of those novelty stores, joke stores, or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's where when you flip it, it's a woman in a bikini or she's naked. So one of those types of pens. The principal threatened to beat Robert, and he was like, "Okay, I'm out of school." So he drops out. His mother then forced.
Pretty harsh reaction. Jesus, over a pen.
It's the 60s. His mother then forced him to learn how to slaughter pigs and cut meat, but Robert didn't want to. He was forced, and he was like, "Okay, Mama." I'm like, that's unfortunate.
You do a really good voice for that.
He didn't even sound like that. Like, I've actually
listened to the audio.
I've heard audio from his when they had him in investigation and everything. He's very much like a nope, 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 nope. Like, he legit sounds like that. It's
like the vulture from the Looney. No.
He really does. He really does, and it's fucking weird. Now, I'm gonna detour a minute from Robert. We're gonna talk about his brother David and some of the shit he's getting into.
Please tell me he's not getting into cows and pigs.
No.
Okay.
When David was around 16 years old, like many others of the same age, like I've done it a couple times, you've done it, he would drive around, joyride. You know, go.
I mean, small town, that's what you do.
Small town, that's what you just...
When gas was affordable.
Don't make it real. On October 17th, 1967, he was driving in one of his dad's work trucks, because they had a farm, it's gonna have work trucks, when he ran over 14-year-old Tim Barrett, who was walking with the flow of traffic.
Oh shit!
But it was also like 7:30ish at night. It was also 7:30 in the evening, so it's like it's starting to get dark.
Yeah, if it wasn't summertime, it was almost sunset at least.
It was October, so it was getting there.
Yep.
David freaked out, and he went back home to Leonard and Louise, like, "Ma, Pa, what do I do?"
Oh no, what do I do? Oh no.
Hang on. No, hang on. I think I'm more like "Ma, Pa, what I do? I went over someone." Because he has that fucking lisp. He can't do his... He's excited. He can't do ours. Yes.
I went over... Jesus Christ. I don't want to be in this room when you get sucked down to hell, sir.
Ah, God, I will see you there.
That's fair.
They told him to take the truck to the garage so they could try to clean off the blood on the hood. That's the first thing. Second, they then told David, go to the mechanic who fixes up our trucks and get the dent fixed and repainted, as well as fix the broken turn signal. Now, considering this was a farm truck, the truck was already fairly beaten up. Like,
yeah, you could have... Oh, yeah, no, one of the pigs hit the truck.
something like that. Especially from the Pickton farm, so it's already going to be beat up and scratched.
Yeah. So
while David drove to the mechanics, Louise went out to where David said he'd hit Tim, and she found him. She then dragged him over to the edge of a slough,
yeah.
and rolled him into it. That's it.
Wow.
It's now 8:30 p.m. At the mechanics, David, in a frenzy, tells the mechanic that a piece of timber had fallen on the truck, causing the dent.
Say like him.
Hang on. I gotta get right with it because there's not a lot of R's in this one. It's like, a piece of timber, there we go. A piece of timber fell on the truck earlier, and that's what caused this dent. Like, he's freaking out about it.
Yeah.
And it needed to be painted over. The mechanic was like, okay, so he took, his hammer and fixed the dent, but he didn't paint it. He's like, I'm not gonna paint this. It's a farm truck. What are you trying to make it look nice for some show? No. To fix the paint, the Picktons used red house paint to try and cover everything up. They also threw some mud on places just for good measure, like that it had been used. Tony's face is in his hand right now.
House paint.
House paint.
Goes on house.
On metal, yeah.
Twuck paint. Go on twuck.
The next day, while listening to the radio, the same mechanic heard a police report about a boy being killed by a hit and run on Dominion. So he called the police and said, if it turned out to be fact, I'd save him some work. So, thanks. So good on the mechanic, just like having an actual soul.
Yeah, putting two and two together.
Yep. The RCMP, that's the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, for those unfamiliar.
The Mounties.
They took samples of the original paint, and it matched the same paint that was on Tim Barrett's clothing. So, David would be arrested and convicted of failure to remain at the scene of an accident. He would also have a suspended license until he was 21. As well as be...
16?
He's 16.
Okay.
As well as be on indefinite probation.
I mean, you ran over someone.
But you want to know what's worse? Tim Barrett didn't die from the truck.
Oh.
He was badly injured with bruises, hemorrhaging, a fractured skull, and a fractured dislocated pelvis.
Jesus.
The medical examiner said that this wouldn't have killed him. He had drowned in the slough at 7:45 p.m. because his watch had stopped at that time. It should be no surprise further that Louise would be the subject of so much gossip and rumors for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
So, you can get away with murder, apparently, with this family. By the early 1970s, the Pickton brothers were kind of doing their own jobs while still working on the farm. Robert was an apprentice meat cutter, while David went into construction and demolition. I don't know how. I couldn't find why. I mean, I can see why. Demolition, you get to destroy stuff. Kind of fun.
I like to break things.
It's so bad. I hate him even further.
I don't know if this episode might not get aired.
It's gonna get aired, but it's gonna be. Not long into the 70s, Robert quit being an apprentice meat cutter, and he said that he regretted this decision later on because had he completed 7 years of being an apprentice, he could then work anywhere in Canada as a meat cutter. It's like apparently 7-year apprenticeship is enough for anything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, all right. This meant he was also back on the farm full time.
Ugh.
And it should be no surprise that Robert was awkward with women.
No.
While David was somehow good with women. I don't know how. Apparently they must like the wisp. I will keep in mind, I am making fun of somebody in this story who is
an asshole,
terrible person. I will not make fun of somebody who has a legitimate lisp, and they are a good person. I've met quite a few people who actually do have a lisp or a stutter, and they're actually
and they make more fun of it than we do.
And they're some of the nicest gosh damn people.
Uh-huh.
I can't. So
I love how you censored the wrong word on the gosh damn.
So I am not. I'm making fun of an asshole with a lisp. I'm not making fun of people with a lisp. I'm making that a point right now.
It's like making fun of Adam Sandler. Like, It's allowed.
Yeah.
Sandler.
Why'd you say that?
I don't know.
You just threw Sandler out there for no reason.
Today, Junior.
There you go. David would eventually move away from the farming business since he felt it wasn't generating enough money. He stayed focused on construction and demolition, as well as getting into the topsoil business by selling off dirt from the family farm.
Weird flex, okay.
I mean, he's looking to make some big money. He won't have to worry about that before too long. It's going to get interesting. So now, how do we know so much about Robert's childhood? Because we gave quite a lot here. I mentioned earlier, he had a habit of collecting pen pals. I really do legitimately think that he was lonely, and he was seeking some type of companionship. Like, part of me feels sorry for him with his childhood, but that's only like a small amount. Like the rest of it is like, this guy's a monster.
Yeah.
Because he told people, and it was mostly female pen pals, which again it tracks. He was probably lonely.
Yeah.
Small town. One of his favorites was named Connie Anderson. She lived in Pontiac, Michigan. In 1974, Robert decided he wanted to make a trip to go see her, and this would take 6 months. Or was it 6 weeks?
I think 6 weeks.
6 weeks. It would take a 6-week trip.
If this was 1870s, maybe 6 months. Maybe 6 months.
This is 1970. So 6 weeks. I hate that I can. I had everything. I should have written it down. That's a bad habit. I've got to break it. To see him off, his brother and some friends threw him a party where he got super drunk for the first and only time in his life. Weird side note, Robert Pickton is one of the very rare cases where the killer didn't smoke or drink or use drugs. He could procure drugs for you, but we'll worry about that.
You always get the streetlights guy to do it for you.
Mm-hmm. Along the way to Pontiac, Robert made stops in Kansas City, St. Louis, and Chicago. So kind of took a long trip down to get there, because Vancouver's up here, Chicago's on the northern side, yet somehow he went into Missouri first, and then up. I don't know how.
That is...
It's a very weird trek. Apparently, he had to be careful in Chicago because there was a lot of... Because he said that there was like a lot of black people in Chicago, and he didn't know how to... No. So I'm like, okay, that's a rough one right there, man.
I already glaze over that part.
Yeah, that was a brief instance. Apparently, he said he was asked to be a male model, which I don't believe in the slightest.
Like, as a before model, maybe, and then after...
I'm about to send you a picture of what Robert Pickton looked like, by the way.
Oh, boy.
And you're gonna hear it when he's like, nope. Just gonna make that the thing right now. You can hear it, can't you? Yep. That's how he sounds. I'll find you the videos later and show you. Like, before too long, he made it to...
Hang on.
What you got?
He looks like the butler from Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh my god. You are not wrong. More dirty. Way more dirty.
Probably smellier.
Oh yeah. But before too long, he made it to Pontiac and he met up with Connie Anderson. Don't really specify, what all happened. May have just been friends talking or whatever. Dinner. But by the time he left, Pickton felt he was engaged to Connie and that she was the love of his life.
Oh no.
So, this guy, obvious, dumb thing here to say, but he didn't get out much. I said dumb thing to say.
Oh, boy.
Not long after Robert got back to the farm, though, the engagement fizzled out and he was back to his usual piggy farm life. 1978. Things began to turn bad when Papa Pickton dies at 91 from cancer.
Jesus Christ.
Somehow a guy born in the mid to late 1890s lived to be 91. Like, dude lived off a spite, probably. It's like, how did he survive? How did he live for so fucking long?
His immune system was probably top fucking notch.
It had to have been. But cancer finally got him. Shocker. Not long after that, David and his girlfriend Sandy break up. Apparently, Robert worshipped Sandy, and he had a crush on her. He even asked her to marry him at one point. So, more awkward shit with women.
Yeah.
Then, the pig barns burn down, so nearly 600 pigs are destroyed in the process.
No, that's just...
That's a nice big old hog fire.
I was gonna say, that's just a shit ton of bacon.
I can smell it, and I can smell that, the cooked pork, and I'm like, now I'm hungry. Way hungrier. Willie did try
I'm gonna go ahead and leave the room, it's getting a little creepy in here now.
Robert tried to rebuild the barns, but he never finished it. So I think some of the laziness and everything from his dad bleeded over. Yeah. 1979. Mama Pickton dies at 67.
Oh yeah, I forgot she was 16 years younger than
Also, yeah, I did the math too. It is 67, just for a double check. She was also, I'm pretty sure it was also cancer. She the last year of her, that last few months of her life, she really downhill spiraled. She stayed at home. Robert would actually clothe her, bathe her, change her diapers. Just oh god, I don't even want to know. I don't even want to know how that goes, because considering how decrepit they kept things. When she died, she had her will done. She had her will all set up, and she had extreme stipulations for Robert, because he got the farm.
Oh god.
He also had an inheritance to get. He would be given a $20,000 lump sum at the beginning, but if he wanted anything else, he would have to stay on the farm until he was 40. He was 30 right now, so he had 10 years left on the farm.
Ugh.
Which, that fucking sucks.
Mm-hmm.
He would use that $20,000, the lump sum, to go buy a 1977 truck, so something to make him feel better about the situation.
Something for himself.
By now, it's the 1980s, and Robert is still a bachelor. He still lives on the farm and has now taken up an aptitude for mechanics. He'd go to car auctions and bring, whatever he got home. And then he would sell the usable parts as well as scrap the rest, separating copper, aluminum, brass. He would actually make money.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a living.
And it worked out. People would say that he was a bargain buyer. It's bargain spender. That's it. Yeah, that's what he was doing, trying to get the money for it. He would also go to livestock auctions, and he would shop for customers. So say they wanted, this lamb or this sheep or whatever.
Yeah.
Or this emu. I'm not kidding. There were emus involved.
And that's how the Great Canadian Emu War starts.
You know this, and I know this, but this is what some people don't know. To slaughter the bigger animals, Robert would use a nail gun and fire it into the animal's forehead. But here's the thing, though. It wasn't the type of nail gun that they normally used, which is the long tube with the fucking railroad spike that is pneumatically based.
Yeah.
This was the kind of nail gun you use for construction. So
that's not gonna work. Oh boy.
Yeah, apparently that was his favorite. If the animal was too big to just slit the throat, and bleed it out, that was his favorite method of taking care of the animal. So that
shouldn't be your favorite way of doing anything ever for anything.
With Mama gone and her coddling of him done, there's a massive turn in Robert that we see.
Kind of derailed a little bit there.
Yeah, it's like he didn't have the cushion anymore. He could finally do whatever he wanted, be the rebel against his mother, without her knowing.
Oh boy.
There's some deep-rooted shit here.
This episode of Sidechair Psychology.
By this time, Brother David was still in the construction and demolition business. But you want to know what he really wanted to be? Out of everything in the world, he didn't want to be No, he didn't want to be a pig farmer. No.
I want to go to Broadway, Father.
He wanted to be a biker. Specifically, a Hell's Angel. He adored the Hell's Angels. They were his heroes.
That's not a sentence anyone ever needs to say.
Yeah, that was his thing, dude. He would actually schmooze in with the local chapter up in and around Vancouver. Like, he made friends with them.
The Vancouver chapter's not a great one. Ooh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And this is where my knowledge starts coming in a little bit.
Because of his connections to the Hells Angels, the local police began to assume that Pickton brothers were running a chop shop for the Hells Angels.
Yep.
Which they were. They were. In 1981, the RCMP sent a couple of officers to investigate. And it turns out further that David had been throwing parties for the Hells Angels on this property.
I mean, who's going to come to a pig farm?
Exactly. It's out it's a good chunk out there. There's 40 acres.
Like, the answer is the pigs.
Oh. We're talking the Hells Angels or the cops?
The cops.
Okay.
The Royal Mounted Piggies.
RCM, the Royal Canadian Mounted Piggies. Okay, RCMP. The police arrested David because out of the two brothers, he was very much more like headstrong and...
He was the louder one.
He was a louder, smarter, air quotes. You know what I mean.
On paper.
Yes. While Robert would actually walked around the property with the police and was like, yeah, that's where the cars are over there, and some are buried over there. Because David also has all the freaking equipment to, like, excavate.
Yeah.
So they probably buried a few cars also.
Oh, yeah. They buried the remains of it.
Yeah.
The cars.
Things would not get crazier for a minute because between 1981 and 1982, the RCMP were also dealing with a serial killer by the name of Clifford Olson. I'm not going to talk about him much, but just because he's not the focus.
It's not his episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Olson had gone on an 18-month killing spree, primarily children and teenagers, between December 1980 and July 1981.
Jesus.
He was eventually apprehended.
Yeah.
And in 1981, and then the police trying to get everything figured out for 2 years, so they couldn't focus on the Picktons and their chop shop, which was still going on even at the time of being of David's arrest.
Yeah, chop shop or serial killer, you're gonna go do the serial. Let's get him done first.
Yeah, Olson wound up dying in 2011, so he's long dead now. Around the same time all this was going on, Robert Pickton began cruising around Vancouver's downtown east side, which had a pretty rough reputation. This is where all the sex workers, drug addicts, homeless, and hopeless would congregate at some point in their lives, with some staying permanently. Mm-hmm. This is very much... It's not even like... it's truly the Skid Row.
Yeah, it was Vancouver Skid Row. Yeah,
yep.
That's actually a pretty apt description.
I wasn't going to say it was like a red light district or whatever.
No, it was the Skid Row. It's the burnouts and the junkies. And,
yeah. It's legitimately the dregs of society have congregated in this area. There was also like a bunch of small-time motels and hotels, one rooms.
Yeah, charged by the hour.
Bars and stuff.
Yep.
This is where Robert would go a lot. He would cruise around and try to find women because he was making money, so he would just pay for sex. Pay for companionship. Wasn't even just that. Sometimes he would legitimately give them money for, like, buy yourself something pretty. Like, full on. Just to do that. He would also go out this way a lot to the downtown east side area because he had to get to West Coast Reduction, a waste rendering plant, where he would take discarded parts of animals that he slaughtered.
Yeah.
And it would usually be, barrels and stuff full of, like, what have you.
Yeah.
Rendering plants like this, for those who are unfamiliar, is where they hold discarded pieces of what have you. They are then processed, they are then rendered, processed, turned into grease and whatnot, and then it is used for cosmetics, plastics, textiles, just to name a couple of things.
Yep.
With his travels into the downtown east side, he would, like I said, he picked up sex workers and he would bring them back to the farm. And of course it's just like, $20 bucks. Well, it's like $20. They would say, like, how much for this? Oh, $20. What if I take it? I can give you $100. We'd go back to my place, and they would take it because it's money.
Yeah, it's $100.
$100. They're gonna do that. obviously the Pickton brothers, they had words about this because Robert hated his brother and his friends because they didn't have to pick up women without paying for it. They just somehow had the charm or some bullshit. I don't fucking know. Or maybe they just managed to pick people who actually just had poor judgment skills. I don't know. And I'm not gonna try to victim blame. I'm not gonna victim blame because that's gonna sound bad on my end.
Yeah.
It's just more like some people, they are attracted to certain types
Red
of
flags.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see the red flags, and you're like, ooh, pretty colors.
That can happen a lot, and it does happen.
Yeah.
I don't want to make that seem like it's a bad thing.
No, it just sometimes you make poor judgment calls.
That happens. That's life. David, on the other hand, was not too happy with Robert bringing home sex workers because having been with the Hells Angels for all the dealings with Hells Angels have made David fucking paranoid.
Yep.
Because now he's actually got, like, on guard and everything. He's just...
Waiting for the Royal Mounties to come back out and raid.
Mm-hmm. Despite his scraggly and dirty appearance, Robert was a favorite at a local bar called the Astoria. Now, don't let the name fool you. It's still in downtown East Side, so it's not like the Waldorf Astoria out in New York.
It's not prestigious.
It's not prestigious. He would, while Robert himself would sip soft drinks because he didn't drink, he only drank once.
Yep. He
would buy rounds of beer for everybody else, and he would even give sex workers money for drugs or for sex. Like, he would, they actually said, here's $20, go buy you some blow. Whatever worked, huh?
Okay.
Some of the sex workers that Robert was associated with wound up disappearing. Now it's uncertain if some of these were Robert's victims or not, because this was in the late 80s.
Yeah.
It's uncertain, because the thing is, with sex workers, the police didn't really put much thought into much concern to this, because
they were sex workers.
They're not only are they low end of society, people asking for help. I would argue on that one.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's also the fact that it was actually quite common for sex workers to move from town to town without even telling anyone. Yep. So they could be gone for months on end, and then they come back one day.
Yeah.
So it was, again, not uncommon. By 1994, we're in the 90s now.
Oh shit.
The Pickton siblings have become millionaires. Here we go. Gonna get interesting. Linda Pickton, the older sister, remember her?
Mm-hmm.
She got away and everything. She got out of the pig farm and everything. She had her own life to live. She became a realtor. And she negotiated a sale on the north end of the farm for 1.76 million Canadian dollars.
Jesus.
To a company that started building a dense townhouse development in the north side.
Yeah.
So there's already that. Shortly thereafter, around late 1994, early 1995, 2 more parcels of land were also sold off. One for $1.17 million, the other for $2.3 million.
Ah, damn.
So now the Picktons, all 3 siblings, had $5 million. $1 million.
All right, there it is.
I saw you waiting. Robert Pickton would be set for life.
I feel like this is going bad.
Yeah. Once again, though, much like the old farm location, the Pickton farm was now surrounded by affluent neighborhoods. It's like they just couldn't get away from it.
Gentrification.
Here's a picture, by the way, of the farm itself. It ain't much to look at.
That looks like a scene from a Twister movie.
Twister, or like The Hills Have Eyes or something.
Yeah,
Deliverance.
I hear banjos. I hear maple syrup in banjos. It's Canada.
Robert also had this is fucking weird description, and none of this has also been weird, I know. He had a stuffed head of a palomino that he had once owned, but it broke its leg and he had to put it down, so he had the head stuffed and mounted in his office. And I've seen a photo of the Palomino head. I'm like, that's actually on the wall. Okay. Just
I'm not defending.
named her Goldie.
I can see, because my family has some of our old cattle that passed away. We have their horns, or, their skulls, because they had, extremely long horns. I can see doing that. The horse is a bit is a bit out of the normal, but
I just sent it to you.
oh boy. Okay, that's a lot going on.
Yeah, there's a lot.
I mean,
and it's just gonna get worse.
and he had the back half on the other side of the wall.
1995, David Pickton got an idea.
So just to put this in time frame consistency, so people understand this.
Yes.
MTV was around. Limp Bizkit was a thing.
Yep.
Eminem was about to make it big.
Blockbuster still existed.
All right, well, we don't have to get personal about it. Jesus Christ.
Yep, 1995. I was 2. What?
4.
Yep. But David Pickton got an idea. He wanted to open a club for his Hells Angels buddies.
There it is.
Yep. So, 1 year later, in 1996, the brothers opened Piggy's Palace Good Time Society. I am not making this name up.
That sounds like a cult name.
Yeah, it is. They managed to, they got like a metal building onto their property, like a classic metal barn looking fucking thing, and that's where they actually set it up to be a venue for charity groups, benefactors, events, that sort of stuff during the day. But at night, it would be the Hells Angels' second hangout, because the Hells Angels clubhouse in this area was legitimately across the street.
The after party.
Yeah. The continuance. Despite the palace being set back in a large lot, and I'm gonna call it that because there's no other way to fucking say it, the noise reverberated all night with country music, laughter, fights, Harleys revving and racing, and plenty of cursing.
No.
Shocker, I know. So, raving Hells Angels.
The Vancouver chapter at that, which was one of the more notorious chapters.
Yep.
Outside of New York and LA, like the California coastline, New York, and Vancouver. Like, those were the 3.
In fact, there was actually one of the Hells Angels, they called him Tony, was sort of like a security guard. He would be for the event. David would ask him to remove their colors and stuff, just for the sake of try to be legitimate. The guy in question with this Tony was Anthony Terazakis.
Enforcer. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Big time. I tried looking him up. I couldn't find any photos of this guy, but if I could guess, he's not gonna be he's gonna be a pleasant-looking gentleman, isn't he?
Probably clean shaved, no tattoos.
Clean shaved, got his hair parted back nicely, you know.
Yeah. Goes to church.
Clearly, nice white button-down shirt.
Absolutely.
Got a flower in his hair. 1997. Robert really turns violent now, with a sex worker named Sandra Gale. Other sources say Wendy, so I'm throwing both of those out there.
Yeah.
Wendy could have been her actual name, Sandra could have been her alias, or vice versa. Yeah. That's one thing I don't get about having to find sources, because it's like, is it 953 Dominion or is it 993 Dominion? Because there's no consistency with some sources because people don't pay attention, and it hurts. He had paid her from picked her up from around the Astoria from the west side, from the west end, and brought her back to the property. Paid her for sex and everything. He tried handcuffing her. She didn't like this, so she had to fight. They both threw fists at each other before grabbing knives in the kitchen. Robert got slashed in the throat. This didn't kill him, but he got a good one. She got stabbed a couple of times in the stomach. She leaves screaming for help, just bloody murder at the top of her lungs, as she's screaming for help on the road in next to nothing. She gets picked up and she's taken to the hospital where she nearly dies. She lost about most of her blood. But somehow, she survived.
Jesus.
And not more than a few hours later, Robert would be brought to the same hospital. They didn't run into each other, but...
That would have been an awkward meetup.
Oh, yeah. Robert would get arrested for this, and he would be charged with attempted murder. Which...
As you should.
Shocker on that one. He was released on a $2,000 bond, and his charge was stayed. So, it was held until further notice.
Yep.
I mean, now, David is no better. David had been arrested for trying to rape a woman. He was arrested, but was only given a $1,000 fine, and nothing went through because this woman was so scared for her life she just left, because he threatened her with the Hells Angels, like, you'll disappear, nobody will know who you are anymore, that sort of thing. Yeah. So I should have put a disclosure at the beginning of this episode. That is on me. The brothers...
It's a little fucked up back here, man.
It's getting a little fucked up. The brothers would also be sued for zoning violations.
The most heinous of these crimes.
Clearly. But they were told that they had to shut down the palace, even though they said, well, we can't. It's for beneficial...
It's for charity.
It's for charity groups. They were told they shut it down because of the noise complaints.
Yeah.
Shocker, again. We're going to fast forward a little bit to 2002 because minus the small time stuff, it gets quiet, and also because I haven't said anything yet. Pickton had Bobby Willie Pickton. He'd been killing a few, and he'd been
doing the murder.
He'd gotten sloppy near the end though, because apparently one way that he had been killed, because they had found at one point, I think they found hypodermic needles that had I think it was window cleaner in it.
Ooh.
Yeah, like torture, dude.
Ooh.
But 2002, the police go to investigate the Pickton property because of claims of illegal firearms. Again,
the Angels.
Nothing like running guns for the Angels. And there, they not only found the guns, but they also found items from several missing women, and ultimately Robert Pickton would be arrested for first-degree murder. Not David, just his brother. The investigation of the property took over $70 million for authorities to undergo.
Yeah, to rummage through.
Yes, because they had to dig up the property because it was a massive amount of land. They were looking for dead bodies that could have been buried on there. They couldn't find any, but there was speculation, and there still is, and I'm probably certain he did, that Robert fed the bodies to his pigs.
Yeah.
Or he also took them to that rendering plant. There's even some who think that he actually carved some of the women up and sold them to people, mixing it with ground pork.
Ooh.
Yeah, that became a thing. The trial began in 2006 with Pickton's legal team pleading not guilty, which that's a given.
Yeah.
Every time you get charged with something, it's like, oh, I'm not guilty.
He didn't do it. Literally have footage of him doing it. Nah.
No, wait, that was somebody else who looks like him. Bullshit. The trial would be broken into 2 separate trials because there was so much here. The media was also banned from disclosing details until 2010. They were put on a gag order, so couldn't say anything.
Yeah.
And turns out the book that I used, the author had actually done the same thing pre-2010, and it was more like a pamphlet. the book I read was post 2010, so they could actually write about what had happened.
Jesus.
The trials went on, and a few of the things that were found, the lab staff testified about 80 unidentified DNA profiles, roughly half male and half female, have been detected on evidence. So it wouldn't surprise me. Well, I mean, Hell's Angels. It wouldn't surprise me with a lot of women and a lot of men and sex workers there.
Yeah.
This is a weird one, and this is a weird detail. A loaded .22 revolver with a dildo over the barrel and 1 round fired. Boxes of .357 Magnum handgun ammunition, night vision goggles, 2 pairs of faux fur-lined handcuffs, a syringe with 3 millimeters of blue liquid inside, probably the window cleaner.
Yeah, the window cleaner.
And Spanish fly aphrodisiac were found inside Pickton's trailer. He didn't live in a house, he lived in a fucking trailer.
Yeah.
In a videotaped recording played for the jury, Pickton claimed to have attached the dildo to his weapon as a makeshift silencer. It was impractical at best. The explanation was impractical, as revolvers are near impossible to silence in that manner. So, if you know your guns.
Yeah.
And then contents of a garbage can which had the remains of Mona Wilson, one of his victims. They found her severed head and hands in there. Yeah. December 9th, 2007, the jury found Pickton not guilty on 6 counts of first-degree murder. But he was found guilty on 6 counts of second-degree murder. Here's why. First-degree murder is murder with intent. Like you plan it.
Yeah, almost premeditated.
That's premeditated. That's the plan on that one.
Yeah.
Second degree is...
accidental.
No.
Or...
Third is definitely a lot more accidental. You're intending to cause harm, but you accidentally kill somebody. Second-degree murder is just murder. Like, not really intention. Not like premeditated, but came into your head, and you did it. The reason why it was second degree is he had a bunch of other sex workers with him, and only, a handful so far that we know of he actually did kill. So that's why they put it at second degree. And the rest of them, everything he was already found guilty. The judge decided that he would have life with no possibility of parole for 25 years.
Jesus. So
he would not be available for probation until 2024, which is this year.
Oh boy.
On this, he had the 6 counts that were of second-degree murder. I do have their names here. Serena Abbotsway, she was 29. She disappeared August 22nd, 2001. Mona Lee Wilson, reported missing November 3rd, 2001. Andrea Joesbury, I hit the mic. Andrea Joesbury, 22, June 2001. About 2000, 2001, 1997. Like, they're all here.
Jesus.
What's even more is that Pickton was only convicted of 6. He was charged with 27, but he confessed to 49 murders. He confessed to 49 murders to an undercover RCMP officer.
Now, I'm no mathematician.
But disguised as a cellmate, by the way.
Yeah, I'm no mathematician, but those numbers don't quite add up the way they're supposed to, I don't think.
Well, the way on it is, he was charged with 27, right?
Yeah.
He only got convicted of 6 because there was enough evidence to convict him as such.
Yeah.
He then says that he then says 49, but we don't know if that's true or not.
He could have been bragging just to...
And he said he wanted to make it an even 50, but he got too sloppy at the end. So, yeah. They decide the Crown Attorney, so it's like, the
Royal Crown.
The High Attorney for the legal system in Canada. They just said, stay the remaining 20 in 2010. Like, we're done with this. He's in there for eternity. He's in lockup for all eternity.
Yeah, until he goes.
Yep. So that would be it for. I'd be almost it, right? He was locked away. He was locked away actually out in Quebec, actually, if I'm not mistaken. in the maximum security prison they have there. His defense would try to appeal, but they were like, "Nah, everything's against you, man. You are not getting it."
You had a pink dildo on your .22 revolver.
Yeah, he was sentenced to Quebec at the prison in Port Cartier, the Port Cartier Institution in Quebec, which is on the other side of Canada. Yeah,
it's the opposite coastline.
Reason why I did Robert Pickton for this week, it's July right now. May 19th, 2024, Pickton was attacked by another prisoner at this prison. The prisoner was described as having the other guy was described as having a history of assaulting other prisoners. He had speared Pickton in the head with a broken broom handle.
Oh.
Pickton was airlifted to a hospital and he was put on life support. I've got a couple of true crime circles that I float around in on social media, and when that popped up, I was like, oh my god. Like, I have to do this story. I think this is going to get interesting. He would die at a hospital in Quebec City from complications of the attack on May 31st. He was 74 years old.
Jesus.
So another serial killer killed in prison by another inmate, just like Jeffrey Dahmer.
Oh, yeah, I forgot Dahmer died that one.
Yep. But Dahmer, his was like full on getting beaten to senselessness.
Yeah.
He didn't get skewered in the head.
You know what's bad? It's a weird segue.
Shoot.
I just watched Deadpool last night. the Francis knife to the Deadpool's head.
Yeah.
That's what it made me think of. Should probably go talk to someone about that thought process.
You might want to do that. So, weirdly enough, this is actually pretty funny. Or I wouldn't say funny. It's just weird. Robert Pickton has been referenced in a couple of pieces of media throughout. There was a Canadian crime drama back in the mid 2000s called Da Vinci's Inquest, and it's following a spate of missing women thought to be victims of a prolific serial killer in Vancouver's downtown east side. Pickton was not directly referred to, but they did refer to the pig farm in relation to the case a couple of times. Yep. CSI, the TV show, there was an episode called Leapin' Lizards. It came out in 2007. This was where a dude killed his wife because he thought she was a reptilian, and he had cut her head off and stuffed it and mounted it, and then threw her body to pigs. And they briefly mentioned a pig farmer in Canada who had done the exact same thing.
Nice.
I remember that episode clear as day. Like, that one's one of those I can't
CSI
forget.
got really fucking weird.
Oh yeah, Gil Grissom was awesome.
Grissom was awesome, but
Grissom was my dude.
That show. Most of those shows just like, I'm sorry, they're doing what to what? This is primetime TV, ma'am.
I mean, they had an episode of Rascal Flatts was the guests.
I remember that.
Yep. One of the guys, I don't know which guy, but he got like electrocuted. He survived, obviously, because it's Rascal Flatts. Yeah. So, that is the story of Robert Pickton.
Stinky
Piggy Pickton. I didn't know that you knew about him.
I knew the Hells Angels aspect of it because I've got like 5 or 6 books about outlaw motorcycle clubs and some of the history, and a couple of the confessionals from like the members turned witnesses sort of things.
Yeah.
And one of them, he was an undercover agent for the FBI, and they had mentioned at one point they were doing a dual investigation, and they were trying to get information from the Vancouver club about the pig farm. And they were and the U.S. side was trying to get information about something that happened in New York.
Yeah.
So they were all in coordination, trying to talk to each other, trying to exchange info. about the club because they always cross country lines.
Interesting. Like that's actually cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, freaking, David Pickton. I don't know where he's at now. By the way, I think he's still alive. I don't know. I haven't looked into what happened to him, but like while he was still trying to be cozy up with the Hell's Angels and everything, he was not permitted to leave, not to go into the United States at all.
No,
because of his criminal records and everything were gone to him. He would commit identity theft, and he would take Robert's. I want to say Willie because it was called Willie in life. But he would take Robert's ID and just be like, "Yep, that's me, Robert Pickton." And he would go south. Into the United States to gamble in casinos and other shit like that.
Jesus.
Probably even run drugs for the Hells Angels if needed.
Yeah,
that wouldn't surprise me.
Absolutely.
I still can't get... It was
just such a weird roller coaster of things that occurred.
I still can't get over Piggy's Palace Good Time Society. I can't. They decided to take their bully name and make it something good. Or, not good. You know what I mean.
Uplifting?
And to an extent.
Positive. No.
Well, that's all I got for this one.
Jesus Christ, that was bizarre.
What do you have planned? What do you have for our next episode?
To be announced. No, I'm thinking I want to do like almost like a precursor episode, like maybe like a 30-minute like short, and then lead into like your grand race level of one.
Fair enough.
But I want to go either skinwalkers or dragons. Skinwalkers, I'm probably not going to want to watch YouTube because my YouTube's going to get corrupted by all the videos I watch for that.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll never sleep again.
Yep.
And dragons, because dragons are dragons and dragons are cool.
Dragons are cool.
Dragons are cool. And Game of Thrones is currently going on, and House of the Dragon, so,
Still need to watch that. I've been getting into The Boys. I'm only in season 1. I've read the graphic novel, so I know what I'm getting into. I know what I'm getting into.
Oof.
I read the graphic novel when I got it before COVID, so it's like I know what happened. I know what's going on. They've done a few changes, I know, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah, there was one of the opening episodes with the cocaine and the shrinking man.
We'll worry about that later, alright? Alright. Once again, everybody, thank you for listening to Tall and Short with Tim and Tony. I'm Tim. He's Tony. He's also traumatized.
Things happen.
Logo by Brittanie Norris. Once again, thank you, Brittanie. You do a fantastic job. You can follow us on social medias, Facebook and Instagram at Tall and Short Podcast. You can also email us at tallandshortpod@gmail.com. Please drop a like, leave a review, tell your friends, tell your family. Don't kill people and feed them to pigs. It's one way to get rid of them, but don't do it anyway. I'm gonna shut up and get my lawyer on this because I'm probably fucked.
You mean your father-in-law?
He might know somebody.
For a lawyer or for killing people?
For a lawyer! For a lawyer.
You hope.
Oh, God. Once again, everybody, thank you all for listening. Hope you all have a good one.
Fucking pigs, man.